Sorry I'm a little late, which is pretty typical for me. I just squeezed a whole lot of stuff last minute to kind of get done and get in here. So I just ate my lunch at 4 o'clock. Well, 3:57 I started eating lunch, and I was supposed to be on here at 4. But I had to run into town. I had to do some things. The weather was kind of shitty today, which always affects getting stuff done. Everything takes longer when the dog's inside because she just has to be involved in everything that I do. So to get work done around the house is a pain in the ass when she's in. A lot easier when she's not here. Well, YouTube is right on point for once. Yeah, I don't know. I can't make any sense of the notifications because obviously I follow a lot of other people and it'll tell me like 3 days later about a video like, oh, this video just came out. I'm like, it's 3 days ago. I already watched it. Thanks for letting me know. So I will try to take a few snakes out during this, but I'm gonna be fairly limited for a number of reasons. One reason, I just fed almost all the adults, literally like 15 minutes ago. So some of them are still eating. I can see Sambuca's still eating right now. Lilith just finished when I came in here to set up. The Het T positive matrix girl just finished now. I can't see into these kind of darker tubs, so I don't know if they're done yet. Although these guys didn't eat because I have a pair together in there, and they're actually both in shed together, so obviously wasn't going to even bother separating them to feed them or anything, just let them shed. What's up, man? I figured you'd be working. So to Mike, since you're in here, Raiden did eat today, so I would say probably not gravid, at least at this point in time. Maybe a few meals will trigger something. I might throw the male back in there in several days after she digests. He ate maybe like 4 or 5 days ago. He just shed. So to update people on what's going on and why I haven't been live in a month, I had several snakes now that ended up having mites. And no idea where they came from in this room. The last new snake that came into this room was over a year ago, which was the T positive 007, who didn't have mites then, doesn't have mites now. But the large stackable totes are available seasonally, usually at Walmart, although they didn't carry them this year, at least not this brand. Sometimes in the off season you can find them at the Container Store if you have one of those in the state that you live in. They're fairly expensive there. Oftentimes you have to ship them. If you ship them, they often get broken. But yeah, usually from late December, early January into early February you can find them. That's why they're the Christmas colors. They're Christmas tree tubs. So anyways, about this mite thing, I have no idea where they came from. Like I said, I haven't brought a new snake in this room in over a year. The only recent additions I had even in the house are still in quarantine. They don't have them. They didn't have them coming in. They don't have them now. And it popped up in like totally random places. So like the middle of the ARS rack, like 2 snakes had it. In my other room, my olive python female had them, but the olive python male did not. And he was paired up with her literally like 2 weeks before I found them. Maybe not even that long. So it was totally random, no conceivable reason of why they appeared. Obviously, the assumption is somewhere along my travels, something happened and I brought something home. I didn't see anything at any place that I've traveled to. Everybody that I've traveled to has super clean facilities. I know a lot of people try to blame substrate and things like that. You know, mites are host specific, so they're found on reptiles, specifically snakes. So unless somebody's storing substrate in the same room as their snakes, or you know, you go and see their snakes and pick up substrate at the same time, it doesn't come in substrate like that, like some people think. But there was no rhyme or reason, no connection between these animals that had it. Obviously, you guys see on the live videos, between every animal I always sanitize. That's nothing different on video than I do naturally. You know, I'm never going between racks and not cleaning up. So I don't know what happened, but it's been a real motherfucker. I'm pretty much done. I decided to just treat every single snake that I have, every single enclosure. Um, so for the past 2 weeks, every single day of my life, that's what I've been doing. That's also why the last couple videos that I've done have been cut into segments, because I've been doing a segment with an individual animal, stopping that segment, cleaning up, later filming another segment with a different animal, just to really, really go above and beyond on the security between those. And obviously not using animals that had mites at the time or anything like that. So normally everybody knows I keep no pest strips in the room at all times. They've been in here for years. Obviously I rotate them out every couple of months and replace them. They don't seem to be doing the job they once did. I even took some strips and put it directly in the cage with animals that had them, and it did not kill them. I've talked to some other people that use them, and they've found similar issues where they're not as effective as they once were. So the question is, are the mites becoming immune or resistant to them? Have they changed whatever the active ingredients are that they're using in them that are no longer killing the mites or affecting the mites? So it's definitely scary. So I ordered 5 cans of Prevenamite. I just ran out. I have like maybe 4 cages left to treat total. But I have more Prevenamite that's scheduled to drop tomorrow, according to the tracking information. So I bought another 3 cans of that. And I went a little above and beyond, still essentially following the Prevenamite recommended guidelines, but I went a little beyond that. So I also treated like the doorways in the house with it, so that nothing can cross in and out of the room without making contact. I took all the caging outside. I sprayed down the entire caging. The Christmas tree tubs, I did the tops inside and out. I did inside and out the bin. The most important thing when using Prevenamite is that you let it air out and that you let it dry completely. The only way that it's harmful to the animals is via the vapors. And even that is the only way that it's harmful, but chances are most of the time, they'll be all right as long as it's not super strong. But yeah, so every single day I came home from work, I spent about 3 hours doing cages. The first weekend, I probably did about 20 hours over the course of the weekend, just scrubbing out the cages. So here's my procedure start to finish. I'll probably do a video on this at some point once this is all over with and I'm certain they're gone. But I soaked every single cage in a bleach solution for 15 minutes, rinsed it out really good. I cleaned it thoroughly with chlorhexidine after letting chlorhexidine sit for about 10 minutes on it. Let it dry completely, treat it with the Prevenamite, let it dry completely, then aired it out, which meant shaking it, whatever. I took paper towel, wiped down all the surfaces just to make sure there was nothing residual. On top of that, I treated the substrate. Some cases the Reptichip, some cases paper, depending on what the snakes are on. Once again, sprayed the paper, let it dry overnight, shook it out, whatever, and then you store it somewhere, and then it's good to go. And if you store it properly, I think they say it lasts up to like 90 days. But obviously, I don't go past 30. I would just treat again at that point just to be safe. So hopefully with the 3 more bottles coming in, I'll probably use 1 bottle to finish the last few cages and do a few other, kind of preemptive things. And then I'll have a couple of bottles just left as I need new paper and new substrate to be able to treat that and do that. The pain in the ass thing with the Reptichip is I could only use it in cages where the Reptichip was totally dry. So a couple of snakes that I like to keep on chip, I had to take off of chip because it was too wet. Obviously, the important thing right now is dealing with these. I have not been paying attention to your comments, so I'm sorry for that. Let me catch up here. Let me scroll back a bit because there's a lot of comments flying. Can't stay live because we're playing D&D. I will make no comments, no judgment. A little bit of judgment. You called in today and probably will tomorrow. I'd like to call in tomorrow because work's going to be hell tomorrow. I already know it. Not looking forward to it at all. I already discussed that. I can't find them without wheels built in the bottom. I don't think they make them without wheels built into the bottom. Every one of these has wheels. So to my knowledge, they don't make those. Maybe somebody does, but I've never seen them. And the wheels don't affect anything. I mean, they're a pain in the ass to clean sometimes because the snakes love to shit in the gap there. But other than that, it doesn't affect anything. It makes it a lot easier to pull them in and out. Let's see. Might suck. Sorry you have to deal with that. Been in any pet shops in the last month? No, I haven't been in a pet shop in probably 2 years. But I do obviously travel to make these videos. So I've been around other people's collections, but typically I come home, I change out of my clothes, throw those in the wash machine, take a shower. I mean, honestly, I don't know how much more careful I can be from a biosecurity standpoint than I am, and still got them. So obviously it makes you evaluate. Maybe I was trusting the no pest strips a little too much, relying on them, thinking that they were going to do the job, and they didn't, which they used to. They used to work fantastic. That used to be one of the best ways to eradicate mites and to prevent them. So I still have some in here. I didn't necessarily take them out because even if they kill one mite, it's a plus. But you know, I don't know what's going on with those and why they're less effective. Did I show up in the middle of talk about mites? Yes, you did. Austin already said you did, but I'll repeat that. Can they be picked up from the grass outside? Now, a lot of people ask that, and the crazy thing is, if you research snake mites, nobody really knows where they come from. Supposedly their range is somewhere in Europe. Supposedly there's an invasive population in Australia, but how do you know they're invasive is my question, since you don't really know their origin. Are they just assuming because nobody found them for so long and they were discovered? I don't know. But they're not native to here as far as we know. I have never seen a mite outside. You know, obviously now with the prevenamite in use, even if the snakes were to pick up a tick, that would kill those. So that's even less of a concern now than it normally is. But yeah, to my knowledge and to anything that I can find, no, they are not native to here. And even if they are, being host specific, they have to be on reptiles and feeding on reptiles or they're going to die. So unless your animals are coming into contact with wild reptiles or somewhere where a wild reptile just happened to be very, very recently, the likeliness of that would be almost nothing. Mites can travel, though, quite a bit, which is disconcerting because we all think about, oh, I'm quarantining in a separate room. So even if you have mites, no big deal, you know, whatever. But mites can travel, I think it's up to like 50 yards a day. And I don't know about you, but I don't live in a 50-yard mansion. So every corner of my house is well within the range they can travel in one day, let alone multiple days. So that's a little freaky, which is why I went ahead and treated the doorways between the rooms just to be safe, you know, add an extra level of protection. That's also why I did the outsides of all the tubs. So any surface that they touch that the snakes can possibly come into contact with, they will die. And that's important to me because I want to be hopefully one treatment and done, at worst 2 treatments and done, and then just use it going forward as preventative. But yeah, it's definitely a pain in the ass. I dread them as well. Yes, fuck mites. I don't know, unless a neighbor has a snake with mites, they don't live in North America. The wheeled ones I found aren't stackable. I'll keep an eye on. I mean, mine are stackable, I guess. I mean, they just sit on top of each other. You know, there's like a little groove in the top where they fit in. Best YouTube channel ever. Shut up. Only time I've ever had mite issue was years ago after an expo that I didn't purchase anything at. Yeah, I mean, that's the other scary thing. You can just walk around an expo and bring them home. You don't even necessarily have to pick anything up, hold it. Or if you vend expos and somebody near you has them, or people love to go around, touch something on one table, touch something on your table. So it's really funny where people are like, oh, this vendor's an asshole because they won't let me hold the snake. Like, well, you know, they're trying to protect their animals. Ultimately, it's in the best interest of the animals not to have a bunch of people handling them, not to really have anybody handling them. Not only from a stress factor of being at the show, being on display, being handled by random people. Not only that, but from a biosecurity standpoint, shows are scary as shit. I've done shows with a few people, and they actually treat their tablecloth with prevenamite, and you know, even spray down the table before they get there, let it dry, then do their setup just so that if anything walks on the table at all, it'll die. You know, just an extra level of protection. but it's definitely scary. How easily you can get them from other places, and even with a protocol, which I have, because a lot of people don't even have a preventative protocol other than, quarantine. I have a really good preventative protocol, and it didn't work. So it worked for a long time, and now it didn't, and so now I have to kind of, revamp and figure it out, which I will try to do. I think I'm all caught up on the mite thing. What I want to do too, hopefully I'll have another t-shirt design done soon, but the person that's working on them is very busy, and I've been very busy, so I haven't even checked in recently on that. I just spent $1 million trying to treat all these mites now and all that, which was an unexpected expense, of course. Prevenamite's like $18 a bottle. I bought 8 bottles, so you can do the math. That's like $150 right there. Plus the shipping was another, I think about $27 total between the 2 orders. And then all the bleach, all the paper towels, all the material, it's like a $200 thing to just treat my collection one time. So it's terrible. Not something I recommend. So hopefully I can find a better biosecurity procedure. I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful. So for right now, I haven't been traveling and doing videos either, just because I don't want a chance bringing something to somebody else. So I do have plans to meet up with some people soon, but I just wanted to wait until I don't see anything for a while, just to be on the safe side for them. What's the value on a 2018 male Sumatran shorttail? So that could be all over the place. It's going to depend on the lineage, going to depend on how that animal looks, what that animal's value is to you as far as what your plan is. Is it a pet? Is it a breeding project? You could be looking at anywhere as low as like $250 up to, close to $1,000. So all depends on the quality of that animal. If you PM me on like Instagram or Facebook, I can take a look at it and get all the information that you have, who has it, who produced it, all that kind of stuff, and then we can do something. What are you talking about with the eating frozen thawed versus live? I just saw that, but I didn't see what you were talking about there, and comments are flying here. Let's cancel mites 2020. Hey Eric, we're in 2021 now, bro. Just for the record, you're a little behind the times. I don't know if you're like way back in a time zone somewhere where it's 2020, but I would have liked to cancel mites in about 2015, if I could. Probably earlier than that, to be honest. Good afternoon, Brian. What all do you work with besides the short-tailed python complex? So I have McLott's pythons, I have southern white-lip pythons, I have spotted python, I have African rock, Burmese, there's a boa here, I have Australian water pythons. What am I forgetting? I think I cover everything. I have a black rat snake. The black rat, the berm, the rock, the boa are all just pets. I don't work with those from any breeding standpoint. I've never paired up the white lips, hoping to eventually, but the male needs to get a lot bigger and the female needs to calm the fuck down. She's actually been a lot better lately, and I feel really bad. Like I said, I just fed before I went live, and so I thought, what are you doing? Watching my blue ghost female who I just fed. Looks like she's trying to readjust her jaw on the floor of the cage. I don't know what she's doing. But anyhow, so I thawed rats for the olive female and the white lip female. And then I got feeding and I was like, oh, I gotta rush. I fed a bunch of stuff in here and I'm like, oh, I have 2 extra. I'm like, why do I have 2 extra? So I'm like, I'll feed Astra, even though she ate like 5 days ago. I'm like, whatever, I know she'll eat. And same with Ron Burgundy. I'm like, let's see if he's hungry, and he was. I was like, I don't know why I miscounted. And then I walked in to get my other light to do this in the other room, and I'm like, fuck, I forgot the olive and the white lip. So now I've got to thaw more food for them after I get done with this, and I'm going to feed some of the smaller stuff too. But I got to go through and clean them real quick. I cleaned them the other day when I went through and treated the whole rack for the mites thing. But having them out, I soaked a bunch of them while I was doing their treatments on their bins. So I know a lot of them have went to the bathroom since then, so I'm going to rifle through that real quick before I feed them. It's been dicey too, because I've had snakes. I have snakes here that are currently sold that need to ship out. I just had one I shipped out last week. But I talked to every single person that I was sending a snake to in advance about the mite issue. You know, told them where things were at with treatment, whether that snake had had mites or not, which they hadn't. You know, offered to send pre-treated paper in the shipment with them, you know, made sure they had a solid quarantine set up, and told them, like, even though this snake hasn't had mites because they were in the house, you know, to treat that animal coming in as if it does have mites. Just assume that it has mites, treat it accordingly. You know, make sure you're really strict on your quarantine procedures, and if they were comfortable even getting it shipped to them at all. You know, that's important to me, is transparency with everything. You know, last thing I want to do is be responsible for screwing up somebody else's collection. That's a huge deal. It's a huge responsibility, and so I reached out to those people. You know, Mike was one of them. He has a snake here. I reached out to him. I don't know if Kyle pops in on here, but I reached out to him. I didn't see Keisha come through, but she just got her Borneo last week, who she's absolutely in love with. You guys have seen that little one on the video. But she knew about it as well, and she just sent me a text, I think yesterday, that he ate already, and she's absolutely in love with him, which is fantastic. That's the goal. And the thing that I like to hear the best when I ship out a snake is that the snake was even nicer in person than what she saw in the pictures. That's always my goal. That's why I don't touch up any pictures and mess around, especially with snakes that are for sale. I would rather have people be pleasantly surprised than, you know, I've been in that situation where you buy a snake, it looks great in the picture, and you never, ever, ever are able to get a picture of it looking like that again, and it's depressing. You're like, oh man, you know, this thing looked awesome, and it never, ever, ever looks like that for you. And so to me, that's false advertisement, for one, and for two, it's just setting up your customers for disappointment. Wouldn't you rather have them be pleasantly surprised? I understand you're trying to make the sale, but make the sale with you know, quality animals. Don't make the sale with, you know, trickery photography. Thoughts on berms? Thinking of picking one up soon from Unlimited or Nerd. I'm not crazy about berms. That's just my personal opinion. Nothing wrong with them. Just make sure that you have your parameters dialed in. They have pretty sensitive respiratory systems, especially during the winter. Even if the room temperature doesn't drop, they just seem to be more sensitive during that time of year. You know, sometimes those primitive lungs can really, really get affected, and if stuff gets deep down in there, especially in the secondary, it can be almost impossible to get it back out and to get them 100% again. A lot of times those snakes will live most of their life with a respiratory infection to some level, or one that recurs every once in a while. But, you know, the ideal thing is to try to avoid getting into that situation. But you know, do your research on them. If it's something that you like, then go for it. I find them not to be incredibly intelligent snakes, so I don't really enjoy working with them that much. I like snakes that challenge me a little bit. I like snakes that are as interested in me as I am in them. I'll take something out in a minute. It might be a little bit adventurous because, you know, I just fed in here, so it still probably smells like rodents, and I'm sure there's one or two snakes that are eating really slow. I think I saw pretty much everybody was done. I can't see Electra, but she usually hounds food like that, so I highly doubt that she did anything out of the ordinary. And it looks like Sambuca ate, which is good, because when I fed the smaller stuff the other day, I really wanted to get a meal into Sambuca, so I gave her a rat, and she took it very vigorously, and then I came in here the next day to check everybody, and she had left it and was just sitting there guarding it, so I had to throw it out. So I gave her another opportunity today, and it looks like she did eat today, which is nice. Every once in a while they do that for whatever reason, certain ones more than others. You see pictures of stuff and you actually see a nice one in person. Yeah, mister, you hate Borneos, and then you finally see one. Okay, Hardin has some pretty nice blackhead stuff. So it's probably a decent quality, so you're definitely not looking at that 250 range for sure. I'd still have to see the individual animal, but most of his stuff is pretty good over there. Trace has some pretty decent stuff, so I would expect to probably be looking, without seeing it, just pure speculation based on animals I've seen of his, probably expect to be looking in the $500 range, I would think. Possibly a little bit higher if it's a stellar example. I don't hate them. They're still a short tail. Yeah, I know, but you're always picking on them, which it makes me laugh because you're like pretty much colorblind, so you don't even know. You don't even know how nice they are. Might as well have all three species. I can't argue that. I have them all here. But yeah, let's grab something out. I know this one just shed. And of course, the first one I'm going to touch is a Sumatran, who are like the most food responsive. So we'll see how dicey that is. There you go. So this lovely lady here just shed, probably last night. And she's not being too food responsive, but you can see that tongue going. Hopefully I don't get whacked, because I did wash my hands, but sometimes you can't get rid of that smell with one quick hand wash. We'll see what happens. Worse things have happened than a little bite from a little Sumatran. But like you were talking about value, this is a female here. If I was going to sell this snake, I would probably sell her for around $700. She's not for sale. She's one of my holdbacks, but just to give you an idea, you know, and she's still got some coloring up to do. I don't trust the way she's moving. I just feel like she's definitely sensing the food. Her tongue flicks are very rapid. But you can see there's really not much in the way of brown in this animal. She's pretty good, just black and some white. There's a little bit of lighter black in there that almost looks silver in the light. That's where like the brown typically is, but she doesn't really have any. So she would be like a $700 animal if I was going to sell her. And don't try to offer me $700 because I won't sell her. You know, if somebody made a ridiculous offer on a holdback, then maybe I might move off of it, but it's got to be well above market to do that. It just doesn't make sense to you know, kind of cut your legs out on a project unless you're getting substantially more than the animal's worth. Because that's an animal that, you know, if she gives me one clutch, it's worth, you know, 4 or 5 times as much as I'm going to sell her for, maybe more, depending on the size of the clutch. So it's foolish to sell an animal that you're planning on breeding unless A, you're desperate, or B, you know, you're getting at least substantial above market, because there is always a gamble that something happens a year from now and she rolls, or something happens a year from now. Zach, I see your messages coming through, but I won't be able to look at them now. Or maybe, you know, she doesn't pan out and just doesn't ever successfully breed. So those things can happen, but it's still not worth the risk, because even as a pet, she's not going to lose much value. So it's worth sitting on them for a while. So I haven't gotten to talk about, isn't your goal close to a solid black Sumatran? Yeah, although I don't mind the white. If I can get a really, really dark black with the white highlights, I'm good with that. The black and white looks nice together. Morticia and Voodoo Queen have a decent amount of white on them, and they're very dark. I like that. I just want to get them hatching earlier and earlier out with no brown. I want the brown to get the fuck out of there. I don't like it. So most of my Sumatrans that are here have little to no brown. The ones that have the most are probably Black Magic and Amina, just because they're not from my my darkest line of stuff. That was the first Sumatran pairing that I did back in I did the pairing in 2014, but those babies hatched in 2015. So anyways, what I want to do with the merchandise stuff, I want to try to give back a little bit. And of course, you know, the goal here obviously is to keep the channel afloat too at the same time. So I'm thinking about doing something with the super chats where they get up to a certain amount of money and that'll trigger a giveaway. I'll keep a list of everybody that did a certain amount, and whatever amount you do will get you a certain number of entries, something like that, and give away some shirts, which I'll send directly from the store. So I'll just have to message you, get your address or whatever, pay for it, and ship it to you that way. because I obviously don't keep any merchandise in-house except for the stickers. Everything else goes through the page, which there's a link in the bio there. You can get like 70 different products. I've got to jump on a computer. Somebody was asking about like toddler stuff, and I don't have anything available right now, I don't think, but I can make stuff available as far as I know. You just have to go on there and set it up. But you have to do it from a computer. It's impossible from a phone. Well, it's probably not impossible, but it's way too involved, and I'm not even messing around with it. So I was thinking about doing something like that. If you guys think that's a good idea. No, I'm not sending my hold back to your address. And I burned for 22 years. Got one upper refrigerator that wiped her out. Heartbreaking. Yeah, that sucks, man. The berm that I have, who hasn't been on the channel, maybe the end of summer or something, I'll get him outside and get him on the channel. But he's pushing like 20 years old, and he was a rescue I did, I don't know when, maybe 2013, around then. And he was in bad shape, and he has chronic respiratory issues, but the care level he was getting was very low. He didn't have proper heat. He really didn't have heat at all. He had a household light bulb. That was his heat source. He was in a 55-gallon tank. He was not getting regular fresh water. He was getting fed very, very sparingly. So he was very emaciated, which he bounced back nicely, but every winter he's a little on the questionable side. You'll see some snot on the glass, things like that. So he's in the other room. But he goes up and down too in weight, and he definitely has some issues, but I mean, he's going to be 20 years old, I think, next year, right? 2022, yeah, because the guy got him as a hatchling in 2002. So he's an old man, especially for the rough life that he had. But he hangs in there. He hangs tough. So hopefully I'll be able to get him on the channel. And I got a few other snakes at some point we've got to get on the channel that haven't been there yet. But let me know what you guys think about maybe giving away some shirts or something. Why are the Python Brongers mine not as popular as the Sumatra and Borneo when it comes to value? I don't think that's true at all. I think the Brongs are probably the most popular. I mean, maybe in terms of value, honestly, a nice line bred normal Brong can run you $1,200-1,500. So there's no normal wild type Borneo or Sumatran that's running that much. So I would say Brongs have the higher value. Plus they have the morphs, which makes them more popular, and then on top of it, more people work with them. So I don't see that necessarily being true from my perspective. I don't know where you were seeing that, where you felt that way, but Brongs I think are the most popular. They're probably the easiest to sell. Well, this is nice quality Sumatrans probably sell the easiest, but that's because so few people have them. A lot of people love them and get them as pets, and so they don't get bred. Some of the really nice ones out there. I mean, there's really only maybe like 10 people I can think of that have really, really dark stuff. So you're at a very limited pool, and nobody's pumping them out at a high level. The nice thing is everybody that has them has been really responsible with them and not flooded the market and not overproduced and really focused on the quality aspect of it. So hopefully that'll continue and nobody will ruin those like everything else gets ruined. Your average price on market, let me see. Will probably be a lot cheaper, so I get where people can get that idea from. I mean, morph market to me, it's too ball python centered, and so that market is really not the realistic market. So I guess if people are using that as their base point, that might be part of the problem. I think I've sold 2 snakes on morph market ever. I've listed a few here and there. I try to list 1 or 2 every year just so that like people see my name on there in case I ever use that platform to sell. But I really don't like it. And it's not that I don't like the platform itself. I just seem to get more tire kickers there, and everybody wants to beat you up on price on there. And I just don't want to waste my time. I'm putting the animal up for the price I want to sell it for. If I wanted to sell it for less money, I would put it up for less money. You know, it's one thing for returning customers or, you know, certain situations or whatever. But typically, if I'm listing it at a price, that's the price I'm going to sell it for. Um, so I don't know. People just have this whole I need to haggle thing, and it gets to the point to where sometimes you're like, shit, I have to list an animal higher because I know people are going to beat me up for it, and then you create this whole mind fuck that just it's really stupid. You know, I would rather overpay for the right animal than underpay for an animal that's not necessarily exactly what I want. So that's my take on it. That doesn't mean that I haven't talked to people to see if they can do a better price on something before. You know, it doesn't hurt to ask in some regard, but morph market, like people just come at you with ridiculous numbers. You'll have a snake up for $600 and like, oh, I'll give you $300. It's like, are you high? Why would I sell that animal for $300? I'll just keep it. Like it, $300 isn't going to do anything for me compared to what that animal's worth. Even at $600, if it's like we're talking about the Sumatran, it's going to lay a $4,000 clutch. Like you're getting a hell of a steal, and then you're trying to beat somebody up on the price. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. I didn't really see any feedback on the T-shirt idea, so I'm thinking you guys are not thinking that's a good idea. Dio, ha, I knew you were going to say something about him. But yeah, I just I'm looking for ways to keep this rolling, keep money coming into this, and then, you know, not have it be just for nothing. So that's always my idea. I thought something like every $10 you super chat could be like one entry or something, whatever it is. He's too pretty not to show off. He's not looking that pretty these days, man. He's a small Borneo too. Maybe at some point when he hasn't eaten, we'll get him on there. His sister just ate. She's right here. Big T positive just ate. Raiden ate. The Funky T positive hasn't been on the channel, I don't think. She just ate. Electra's been on there. Big Red hasn't been on there yet. Hoping I'll get her on there at some point. She just ate. Sambuca's been on there. I don't remember if my Blue Ghost female's been on there or not. I may have pulled her out in a live video. I know I pulled out the male. I posted some pictures of her in the Blood Python group the other day. But I don't know if she's been on the channel yet. I know I didn't do a Meet the Collection on her. Callisto's up top. I didn't feed her today. I have to feed her next round. Black Magic ate. I didn't feed Hera. Rob's girl ate. My Blue Ghost male ate. The Matrix Het ate. I would love to take you guys out, but all you want to do is just pummel me, and I'm not in the mood. What's up, little dude? Are you going to give me a food response? If I didn't get bit by the Sumatran, I better not get bit by you. You know what I'm saying? I really like this guy that Rumbly produced. I was just talking to Rumbly today, you know, in a message, because he's got some super nice blood pythons hatching. But this Borneo right here is pretty wild looking. It's kind of a white ghost. Funky clutch. Dylan has an animal from this clutch. I'm trying to think who else does, but just really wild sides. Very, very indicative of kind of the ghost and ultra type genes that kind of always mess with that side pattern quite a bit. You know, his sister's like really blue and then he's really white, so it's kind of wild. I have her as well. So I just like seeing how different they can be within a clutch, especially from all of Keith's ghost stuff. There we go, a little Borneo platter there. Very posable. But so far so good. We haven't taken any bites. Usually my short tails are pretty smart. They figure out when they're eating and when they're not. But it's hard sometimes when you're feeding in the room and they don't get to eat. Some of them really get amped up and really put a wallop on you if they get a chance because they're just so impatient and they want that food. So one of the trips I plan on doing at some point, I'm going to get back up to Nerd at some point to do some stuff. I've had some video ideas I've wanted to do up there for a while that just haven't panned out yet. I'm I'm also going to try to talk to Rob or Jeremy or whoever, depending on who I meet up with up there, about maybe doing like a members only from up there, where you guys can, you know, pick some animals to see or do something like that. I got to talk to them and make sure they're on board with that first. And then, you know, I've been talking to Kevin over at KPG Snakes here in Connecticut. He does Burmese pythons, about going up to his place there and doing a video. But like I said, I just want to wait until the mites are all cleared up, and I don't see those for a while. Do you ever mix them like some of the carpet guys? Absolutely 100% not. With carpets, it's different because you're not mixing species, you're mixing localities or subspecies, at least typically speaking. These are all separate species. So you're making hybrids, you're not making integrades or anything like that. So no, I do not do that. I do not condone that. I try to keep an eye on people that do it and steer away from even ever selling to them. Just because it's been so detrimental to them in general, with how many hybrids are out there getting sold as regular animals and people don't know. And sometimes that's where the stupid wrong names get used, like Borneo blood or black blood, and it confuses people and they think what they have is a blood when it's not. And then they think like, oh, I'm mixing my red blood and black blood, it's the same thing, and it's not. They're two separate species. And the resulting offspring are ugly too. So it's not like you're making something that's nicer than either parent species. They look very muddied. They look very like, they look like super, super ugly Borneos most of the time, is the best way I could describe them. So everything people hate about nice Borneos is way worse. So definitely not recommended there. I just got my first baby olive python. Why doesn't everyone own one? Well, because they get pretty large and they're super strong constrictors. They can be very stubborn, very food motivated, especially as they get older. I've been bitten and wrapped by olive pythons more than any other species. And I mean wrapped with intent to kill. Granted, it's on my arm, so it's not going to kill me. What's going on, Patrick? But definitely not a species that people should just trifle around with. Very, very large, very powerful, very fast, very accurate constrictors. I like them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having them, but I think most people that keep snakes are probably not equipped to handle those snakes as adults, especially some of the larger females. Hey, what's up? What's going on with you? Nice to see you. Raiden's staring me down, waiting for more food, like she didn't just eat an absolutely large meal. But that's how they are. They always want more. But yeah, so basically, I been dealing with the mite issue, trying to keep on top of that. I'm hoping soon I'll be back to, you know, more relaxed, normal protocols. But until I know that every one of those little shits are dead and gone, I'm going to be very, very cautious. You know, err on the side of caution is definitely the way to be with that. Yeah, scrub pythons are the same way. Very powerful animals. I think what's deceiving is the more slender build. People think they're not as strong, but they're so powerful. I would say of all the snakes that I've worked with, I would put African rocks as probably the strongest. I would put green anacondas right behind them. And then you're talking like scrubs and olives and retics kind of come in that next category. Berms are down a bit for the larger constrictors. They're still very strong, but they're not as muscular as like a rock python. So if you take a rock python and a berm of the same size and same physical build or same weight, well, let's say the same build. The rock pythons are usually like 10 to 20% heavier because they're just muscled so much different. And I think it has a lot to do with, you know, berms have been bred in captivity for a lot longer. They're a lot further removed from their wild counterparts than rock pythons, which, you know, Maybe you've got like a third generation captive bred at best, third or fourth. I mean, most of them were wild caught, and then maybe F1s, maybe you got some F2s on occasion. Obviously, going forward, considering we can't import them anymore, you'll probably see more and more generations captive, and maybe that'll change. But I also look at the prey they're taking down and the environment they live in. Africa, where these African rock pythons are from, they're taking down very large, very powerful animals. You watch them feed on crocodiles or feeding on hyenas. They'll go after a wild dog. They don't care. They'll go after some big, formidable prey. And I've seen some videos of rock pythons just smoking stuff that'll blow your mind. Where you're like, how did that snake just overpower that animal like that? I mean, a hyena is a very respected and feared predator, and I've watched rock pythons just immobilize them immediately, like it was, Foo-Foo, your little West Highland White Terrier, So it's pretty impressive to watch one of the most feared predators on the plain get taken down by these snakes very efficiently. Same with those crocodilians. I've watched them take down pretty good sized crocodiles and just smoke them. I mean, it wasn't even a fight. So I think that has a lot to do with why they are so powerful. And then the same in Australia, man. You watch those olive pythons, there's video and pictures and stuff of them hanging on with their tail off of ledges and pulling, wallabies up and pulling, wombats, whatever it is, large prey. Same thing, they'll go after crocodilians there and eat crocodiles. So they're just very, very powerful animals. With scrubs obviously being arboreal. You're going to build muscles climbing all the time and holding on. More so than, some of these other snakes. Bloods and shorttails, I think that's why it's such a surprise. The strength they have, the quickness and agility they have for what they look like, you wouldn't expect for their lifestyle, the way that they just sit sedentary so much. For them to be that powerful is really impressive. And especially the way they're just loaded springs. You look at a snake like a Burmese python, typically about a third of its body length is where it can strike. So if you're half its body length away, it's really hard for it to get you. Plus you have plenty of time to react. Shorttails can throw their entire body at you. They'll levitate off the ground. It's like a magical thing to see. It's very, very impressive. And Gaboon vipers are the same way, and they're built very similar. They're just loaded springs. Gaboon vipers obviously have a faster strike than a blood or shorttail, but blood and shorttails can strike very, very fast. And like Gaboon vipers, they can strike in any direction. So, like a berm or a retic is typically going to turn and then launch. These guys can be facing away from you and just launch over their own back at you, just very athletic. The olive python is definitely a very athletic animal too. I've watched her where she's facing away from me, can't even see me, and I've thrown food that's like, the moment it hits the ground, she's on it. Like, even though she couldn't see where it was coming, she just has a sense of what's around her. That's very, very impressive. I've seen other people, and she's the same way. You can throw her food to her, she'll catch it right out of the air. They're really, really amazing predators. Their ability to react, change. My female blood impresses me all the time. Sometimes when I'm cleaning, she will hit the cage like a fullback. I have very few that do that. Electra, on occasion, if you startle her, will hit the side of the tub. Lilith will do it, which is ironic because she's one of the sweetest snakes I have, but she is so food motivated and has zero patience. So if she knows I'm feeding, you'll start walking in the room and you'll just hear bam, and she wails the side of that thing. Or I don't know how she doesn't hurt herself. And she has no chill, no patience when it comes to food. And she's still sitting here watching me right now waiting for food. She just ate, an hour ago at this point. So, some of them are just that way. But like Big Red has never ever struck her tub. Although Big Red drives me fucking up a wall. During breeding season especially, or if she's gravid, she's even worse. She will run her cage all the time, and she drags her body along the side of the plastic, and it makes this horrible like sound as she does it, and she'll just do it in circles over and over and over when she's A, gravid, B, really wants to eat, or C, is impatient about something. Like breeding season, if she wants to breed and she starts pacing the cage, she always does it. And I have how many in Christmas tree bins? Not a single one other than her has done that. She just like sticks her body up to it and rubs it. It makes such a horrible sound. The first couple times it happened, I thought somebody had like a bad respiratory infection because it made like a similar sound to what a snake does. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell? I'm like, something's about to die. And then I'm like, oh no, it's this fucking big bitch over here just dragging her body down the side of the plastic. And she got me a few times where I was in here cleaning and she started doing it randomly. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that? What is that? Thinking it was something bad. Nope, it's just Big Red. I'm hoping to get her head's like so sunken in still. She's had better shed cycles than she has in years, but her head like won't on sync. She looks like a dehydrated snake all the time. So there's something off with her body. She's not metabolizing something properly. I don't know what it is. Because she passes food normally, she eats normally, I vary her diet. But yeah, she has that real sunken in head, which started like 5 years ago and just hasn't gone away. And I don't know her true age. They thought she was like 6 years old, but for all I know, that snake could be 30. You know, I have no idea. So, assuming they were correct, she would be, well, let's see, Ron Burgundy hatched in 2016. So I would have had her at least in 2015, if not before then. I might have even had her in 2013. I don't remember. But let's assume 2014, 7 years old. She's at least 13 years old at this point. Possibly much older. I don't know. Because she's big. When I got her, she was like 6'3". So that's big for a 6-year-old. And I haven't measured her in years. She's probably a little bit longer now, but I don't know. I have to get her outside and get an accurate measure of her at some point. Maybe I'll do that this summer. She's not quite as big as the T-positive girl. Maybe at some point this summer I can get the two of them out together so you can see my two biggest girls at the same time. I've just been trying to get her head to not look so shitty. You know, I mean, the goal is to put Ron Burgundy to her. Of course, he doesn't want to breed. I don't feel comfortable breeding her really right now. Because that's what started this whole thing. Prior to her laying that clutch, she never had any issues. Then something changed in her body. And I don't know what it is. 6'4" tank. Yeah, well, the T-positive girl's 6'8" at least. I haven't measured her in a while either. Do I know of any studies that measured short-tail python strike speed? No, I do not. I really don't want to deal with the McLots, to be honest with you. Let me grab my hook. I'm not even going to handle them. Oh. Because they're just absolute assholes all the time. There you go. That's one of them there. I don't even remember which one's which right now. I think that's the male. Don't be fucking me. They look so innocent, but trust me when I tell you they're not. All they want to do is bite if I try to hold them or anything. They just always have a bad attitude. And they're very, very liasis. When I take them outside, they're a little bit better. Although the male has tried to stalk and eat me outside, which is pretty funny because he was about a third of the size then that he is now. Go back into his cage here. Nope, stay in your cage. You're not coming out. Oh, let's see if we can get the other one. I'm going to leave you be. She's soaking, so I'm going to leave her be. I'm not going to try to take her out of her water. She's just going to drip it all over the floor. I fed them... I don't know when I fed them. She might be in shed. He had just shed when I cleaned them out to do the mite treatment. But she, I don't think she did. But yeah, they're not bad. Like that made him look really good. That's probably the best he's ever behaved. Usually he'd be coming after me. But they do, like if I have them in my hands, they turn and they just bite. And they bite repeatedly and over and over. And I even tried like handling them in a sweatshirt before, thinking, oh, they won't bite my arms. that was laughable. Just subbed, thank you. Did you get the mites from outside? We went over that towards the beginning of the video, but no, you know, to everyone's knowledge, they're not native to this area. So I got them presumably by traveling somewhere. Just not sure where. It wouldn't even hurt a fly. It might not hurt a fly, but it'll definitely hurt me. Yeah, it'd be nice to get them together. Big Red's a beautiful, beautiful blood python. Very, very deep red. She's even darker than Ron Burgundy is. You know, being an older animal, they get darker as they age. But I mean, I just fed her now, so I'm definitely not going to take her out. And it's weird. Like, she really doesn't like to be handled, but she doesn't necessarily do anything either. She's not a defensive animal. I don't think she's ever struck at me. But I don't trust her either. There's just something about the way she looks at you and the way she moves where I think if you pissed her off, she would definitely take a swing. And she hates having water dumped on her or being sprayed. She will bite her own body. She goes fucking apeshit. Hates it. Even if like her cage, because she's on chip, if it gets like real humid in there and you go to open the top and that moisture falls off the top, apeshit. Hates it. But I have to keep her so much wetter than everything else because she has that chronic shedding issue. So if she's not, she has poor sheds. But man, it's like, I don't know how that animal would survive in the wild because every time it rained, she would be attacking herself and everything around her. You would think eventually she'd get desensitized to it, but I've had her, you know, like I said, at least since 2015, and I've been trying to desensitize her to it, and nope. Nope, nope, nope. Even if I'm giving her water and it splashes out of the dish and hits her, she's irate. Just a wild thing to see. I have a few others that don't like getting sprayed, but like if you spray off to the side a few times and let a little bit hit them and then move on and spray them, they'll handle it. But if you just come in and like start spraying them, they go ballistic. But there's no like, that doesn't work with her. It doesn't matter. Once it touches her, she's mad. So it's really weird. Like Astra, if you just go in and spray Astra, she'll strike and get mad, agitated. But if you start spraying the other side of her cage and then spray her, she's good. She just needs to know a little bit in advance. Yeah, I mean, she'll sit in a puddle. She loves to soak. I could put her in a bin of water in here and she'll sit in there for 5 hours and not even come out with the top off. If I put her in the bathtub with water, she'd sit in there all day and not leave. But it better not come from above. That's where she draws the line. And it's very bizarre. You know, I have no idea. You wonder what makes a snake act like that. If something happened to her at some point that just she's never forgotten, or she's just weird. I don't know. But it's definitely pretty crazy to watch that behavior. Imagine a 20-foot king snake. Can you safely use prevenamite in such a humid environment? Once prevenamite dries, you can soak it with water. It has to dry completely before you do anything else, because the issue is those fumes as it's drying. Once it's dry, those fumes are gone and aired out. You know, so like if you're using a tank, for instance, and you treat it, you know, you can fan it out. Or I put on my Instagram story with the cages, I actually put a fan in the cages and I let it really circulate the air through that after I think it's completely dry, just as an extra. But yes, so you definitely can. But obviously, like I'm gonna have to take her off the chip to treat that cage. She's one of the ones, Big Red, that I haven't treated yet. She didn't have them, so it wasn't like a super time concern, but obviously I want to make sure they can't move around and get to her. So I'm going to have to pull her off the chip when I get those bottles tomorrow. But her chip is so wet that I can't treat it. With the cages out there, I let the chip completely dry out. You know, I pulled the snakes out, I turned the heat up and let it just bake it out completely, and then I treated it, and then I let it dry again. So that's the pain in the ass thing with like ReptiChip, because you set it up in water to get it ready, and then what are you supposed to do? Dry it out completely, treat it, and then, you know, whatever kind of defeats the purpose. So at this point, while I'm doing the treatment, I'm just gonna take everything out and do it that way. And then what I'll do, once, you know, all the mites are eradicated as just a preventative in the future, I'll just treat the tub itself and not the substrate. And so that way, God forbid the snake gets it, I'll still have to deal with it and do whatever, but it won't transfer to any other animals, or if another animal has it, it won't be able to get into that snake. So that's how I'll do that. And then whenever I do substrate changes, I'll just reapply, let it dry, and put the substrate back in. So that's the plan going forward at this point. But yeah, I've never heard of any issues from Prevenamite when used as directed. Just like anything else, if you don't follow the instructions, then you're asking for trouble. The only snakes that actually scared me a little bit with stuff like that is like the white lips, because they're so sensitive to stuff, but they've been fine. You know, I treated both their cages a while ago, probably like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. No issues. The male's in shed now, and the female's out and about, sitting there staring at me every time I come in the room. She's really mad right now because I forgot to feed her. Yeah, the fumes could definitely cause that. But that's why, like, you don't spray it indoors. Obviously, to do the doorways, I had to a little bit. But what you can do is you can spray it onto something and wipe it on there. And then, you know, I put on the exhaust fans and make sure the air's pulling out away from the animals when I do that. And then I do most of the treatment outside. A couple of times, you know, I ran late at night or the weather was bad. So I took the stuff into the bathroom, closed the bathroom door, put an exhaust fan in the window, did the treatment in there, let it blow out the window, kept that closed for, you know, like an hour, and let it dry out in there away from the animals with all that air pulling right out. You know, I mean, you just sometimes have to kind of figure ways around it to do what you need to do safely. But yeah, that's the most important thing, is just doing it properly. I used Prevenamite years ago. I mean, it's a great product. The no pest strips were just more convenient, a little bit more cost effective, and they worked really well at one point. So that was what I rolled with for a long time. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But now that it's broke, I'm fixing it. Yeah, the hot shot strips, those are the ones that aren't really working anymore. For whatever reason, they don't seem to be killing the mites. You know, I watched mites walk right on the fucking yellow shit and walk right off like nothing happened. I was like, okay, that's not good. What's up? Welcome. Welcome, welcome. So what else you guys got before we wrap this up? I don't want to do one of these 2-hour videos today on you, make you guys all sit here forever. That's why I just got rid of mites myself. Very weird to see it at the same time in so many different collections. Yeah, and talking to people, you know, I talked to people all over the country that were having the same issues I was, as far as it not being as effective as it once was, whether they were finding it wasn't lasting the 3 months anymore, or it wasn't killing them at all. I talked to people from, you know, Texas to Iowa to, you know, Arkansas, all over, that were having similar issues. So it was interesting to hear about. And, you know, it's one of those things, like, I wouldn't have thought much to talk about it. I would have just assumed, like, you know, whatever, it's a weird thing. And then once you do talk to people, you know, you find out more information, which is why I think it's foolish that people hide issues and don't talk about it. And, you know, there's probably somebody that'll see this video and be like, oh, he has mites, I'd never buy from him again, or, you know, or he's not keeping his animals well, or whatever it is, because you're always going to have those people, and so be it. But you know what? Those people are people that I wouldn't want to do business with anyways, because those are the people that have that issue and they hide it, and they don't talk about it, and nobody learns from that. You don't foster trust with people that way. I think when you see somebody be open about it and talk about it and whatever, then you trust that they're not going to lie to you and tell you, oh, no, it's fine, and send you something that's going to be a problem. So that's my perspective on it. I've done business with people. I've had people before that contacted me. I bought a snake from them. They're like, the thing has mites. I'm having a hell of a time getting rid of them. And I said, no problem, ship it to me, I'll handle it, get it cleaned up, whatever. And they were like very worried about anybody finding out they had them and whatever. And I'm just not that person. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to go shout from the rooftops like, hey, whatever. But I don't feel like it helps anybody learn if you don't discuss, what you were doing to prevent it. At this point, I can't really discuss how I got them because I don't truly know. I can only speculate. I know that it didn't come in on a new animal because there's no new animal in here. So that I can eliminate. Beyond that, everything else is speculative and trying to kind of eliminate factors that you can. And the most annoying thing was trying to find a common tie between these snakes in random places that had it. It'd be one thing if it was like, these 3 bins or something, you assume it came from this animal and spread or spread down or up, whatever. But when it was like one snake over here, it was one snake over here, it was one over here, one in the other room, that's really weird. Especially given, like, I have never gone and touched an animal from the other room and then come into this room or vice versa. Like, there's always a wash-up period in between. Now, that doesn't mean that, there can't be a mite on the floor, it gets on my shoe. Well, I'm not changing my shoes. So there is still things within even a preventative biosecurity measures. There are things that we don't take into account or don't plan for or are almost impossible to avoid. My cell phone's in my pocket in this room. I take it out, I touch it. I'm in the other room, I take it out, I touch it. That's something that can create issues. Maybe I scratched my face, a mite walked on my face, I go wash up my arms, I go in the other room, well, I didn't wash my face and now I scratch my face or it crawled down. There's a million ways that it can happen even though you're trying to be safe. So to me, the biggest thing is finding a measure that prevents them effectively, which is what the pest strips used to do for me and are no longer doing. So now we'll use the preventamite, see how that works. So far, so good. The animals that had mites, it seems to be knocking them down. I'm finding the dead mites on the paper as intended, or you'll see oftentimes when the mites are really small, sometimes it can be really hard to pick up, especially if you have something like a Sumatran shorttail. You might not see them, and if you're using a dark substrate, you might not see them. But with paper, the nice thing is a lot of times they'll crawl over and smush one, and you'll see like a little streak of little black line or something like that, and that's usually your first indicators. Besides a change in behavior in the animals, maybe they become more defensive. Maybe they're soaking more in their water dish. I know in the past, I remember a snake was soaking. I didn't see anything, and then all of a sudden it had mites, so the snake was feeling them before I could even see them. And that's how I knew my olive female had them, because she was like shoving parts of her body into her water dish, and she's never done that, ever. I've had her for years. Not once have I seen her even wrap around her water dish, nothing. She goes over to drink and leaves that thing alone. So I knew right away before I even found mites on her that she had them somehow. Which is why I was surprised the male didn't, because they were literally paired up all winter long up until like a week or two or whatever before I found them. I separated them. And I separated them because she was having a fit, and I'm thinking she was having a fit because she was uncomfortable with the mites, but I don't know how the hell he didn't pick them up. And maybe he did and I just didn't see one, but I couldn't find anything. I went through, I grabbed him, went through, looked under, everything, nothing. I had him out in that video the other day. I mean, you guys could see some close-ups of him, nothing. So, it just doesn't make a lot of sense at this point, but is what it is. I don't know what's going on with Wet Kitty over there. These people, man. Frontline. Yeah, so the Frontline scared the shit out of me, honestly. I don't like putting chemicals directly on the animals. I know that a lot of people has used that, but especially with like the white lips, I was just too freaked out. The olives. Not to mention, you know how much I don't want to have to try to grab that adult female white lip and try to put fucking Frontline on her with my hands? Like, no. Don't want to do that. So that was the route I was going to initially go. And then I decided to give the preventamite a whirl. if for some reason the prevenamite doesn't do the job and the mites aren't gone, then that would be the next step that I would take. And even though a lot of people say it's safe and whatever, Frontline itself, if you read the product, it says do not use in other animals. So that freaked me out. That was like the last straw where I was looking into it, and I was like, you know what? I was like, the company that's trying to get you to buy it is telling you not to do it. That makes me nervous. And I know that they're just trying to cover their ass from a liability standpoint and things like that, but it just made me too nervous to do it. I have friends that do it and swear by it, and I trust them. But we also, I mean, with prevenamite, with any of it, we really don't know the long-term effects of some of these things. Now, prevenamite, I know a ton of research has gone into. I don't know how much research has gone into Frontline with snakes, and I feel like it'd be very, very low, if any. You know, Frontline's not trying to market it to that, so I can't imagine that they're putting resources into figuring it out. And I think people in the hobby have used it in recent years, but how do we know 5 years from now an animal doesn't roll and it has something to do with that? So that scares me. Have you ever tried sensor push? Do you feel it's beneficial? I don't know what sensor push is, so I can probably say I've never tried it. What is that? I have kept retics. They aren't legal here, so I don't have any now. But I have kept them in the past. Thank you very much, Dragon's Den, for saying I have an awesome collection. Appreciate that. Sensor push is awesome. Have it in my retro roll. So what is sensor push? Is that like a camera system? Is that some kind of treatment product? I have no idea what it is. I've never even heard of it. Talk to me, people. I must know now. Oh, hold on. A sensor to monitor the condition of the room or wherever it's placed in. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so I think I have friends that have stuff like that where you can adjust things from your phone or check it from your phone and it gives you alerts and stuff. Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to have in here, especially being that the room is controlled ambient. If Mr. Miserable will come out. Hi, buddy. What kind of mood are you in? You look fantastic. This guy gets very, very nervous, so we won't have him out for very long. The old T-positive ivory here, he's getting very defensive right out of the gate. Don't bite me, please. He's the only snake that's like taking a shot at my face on camera before. So he was actually one of the animals that had mites. And so he was on substrate in his moss. So I don't know, he could have had them for a little bit longer than some of the other stuff before I noticed, because the only time I really see him is for substrate changes. Otherwise, typically, you know, he likes his food left on the substrate. He comes and gets it. Right now he's on paper, so he's very unhappy about that. But you can see he's just always more alert than all my other animals. Just not really a fan of being handled much. A female's worse. The female will definitely bite me. He doesn't want to be defensive. He's just nervous. But the female, she'll put a walloping on me. She's the only snake that I've ever produced that gives me trouble. Every other snake that I produced, I can handle with no issues. And I really haven't done anything to change it. I've just kind of said, you know, that's her personality. Let her be her. But I'm going to try this summer to spend a little bit more time with her and see if I can at least get her agreeable to me, like moving her to clean her and not being such a handful for that process. This fucking wet kitty bullshit. I know Stephen Katz has been using the Frontline method for without issues, so I don't know. That's what we do. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I understand. I'm not bashing anybody that's using it. I'm just saying what's made me nervous about it. You know, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of if I had a product and I want to sell you the product, for me to tell you not to use it for something and not get your money, to me, I feel like there must be some reason behind it. And since I don't understand it, it makes me a little nervous. Got a dozen sensor push on the Wi-Fi gateway. Great product. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. I'm so tech stupid that technology things just like overwhelm me, and I get very frustrated with it. So I don't know. It would have to be super easy to use. But if Brian can use it, I feel pretty confident I'll be all right. Is that what you have out with the mini horses there, Brian? Or is that a different system? I think that's a camera system or whatever. I guess it's different. Out of water. All right, people, what do we got? Let's try to wrap this up within the next few minutes. Saw a few animals there. You saw one Brong, one Bright, one Curtis. You saw the McLott's python, which you guys have been bugging me about. When I can get outside, I can take them outside. The irony is the female's the better of the two. So she, which is ironic because she's imported, and the male is captive bred, and he's definitely the worst of the two typically. Like I said, he's tried to stalk me outside. What locality are the Max? I don't know the locality on them, and I forgot you asked about the Fuscus too. The one that's in here is Queensland. The two that are in the living room, I believe, are PNG. I don't know that for sure, but they originally came from Dr. Death, and I can't imagine he captive bred anything. So I'm assuming that he got them as imports, and if they were imported, then I'm assuming they've got to be PNG, because obviously you can't import Queensland or, you know, Northwest Territory or whatever at this point. So I'm assuming they're PNG based on that. The female I know is Queensland because I got it from the person that bred her, or secondhand from that, but whatever it is. But I know her locality. The female that I lost was Queensland as well. That was my favorite one. That was a long time ago. That was before the YouTube channel even that I lost her, but she was my favorite one because she was one that I could have had on me during this whole video. She'd be crawling over my face. She'd be sitting on my shoulder. Like, she's just was so chill. Very engaging. And it took a little bit of time when I first got her because the guy that I got her from didn't handle at all. Like, he would move them to clean with a hook and that was it. So he was very upfront about that, and he said, you know, she doesn't seem super defensive, but I don't ever try to handle her, so I don't know how she's going to tolerate it. So I got her, and I started off working with her where I just opened her tub, sat on the floor, let her kind of watch me, let her come out when she was ready. Eventually, I just started like touching her belly while she was out, moving around, and then she was just good with handling, and she became probably one of the most interactive snakes I've ever owned. You know, I had a video at some point. I don't know if I used it on the YouTube at all for that intro or anything. But she used to drink out of my water bottles. Like, she was just totally awesome. Could take her outside, put her on the ground, go do something, come back, pick her up, throw on my shoulders. No, not a defensive bone in her body. Now, she was Liasis, so very food responsive in her space. You know, she would do that classic pose where they stand up and look at you and decide whether they're going to mess you up or not, but she really was awesome. These animals going so long between, what do you look for as signs of impaction? So basically, I would look for, obviously, an extensive amount of their body getting super, super hard. What would that person say? It might be act up. Missed the first 55 minutes, but how's the season looking? The season is looking bleak. I may not get any clutches this year. If I do get one clutch, I think it'll be from the marble stuff that Rob has. Raiden just ate today. She was the snake that I was most hopeful would go, but the fact that she ate, I don't think she's going to. Rob's female ate too. I haven't seen any signs from her. I haven't seen anything from the water python or the olive python. Blue Ghost female ate today too, so I don't think she's going to go. I was talking to Mike the other day about this, and I really kind of screwed this season up myself for a number of reasons. I had a few females a little too trim going into the breeding season. I didn't really pay as much attention as I really needed to pair at the right times and do all that. And to be honest with you, the YouTube channel is the biggest reason why my focus was not where it needed to be. I was trying to work so hard on building this and doing this and being consistent with this that it kind of took some of the time and attention away from these projects. So this upcoming breeding season, you know, I really have to focus more. I've got to start in like July, August, really changing the feeding schedule, pushing the food a little bit heavier, peeling off, you know, like mid-fall to early winter, and then start, you know, my breeding. This past season, I really didn't start bumping up food until probably mid-September, which was just too late. So we'll see. I might throw a few males in with some of these girls now, just see if there's any activity. They can breed year-round. It's easier in the season, so to speak, but, you know, maybe you'll see a little activity. Maybe something will happen. You know, I don't know. Plus, I used a lot of young, new males this year. I'm trying to think how many males I paired up this year that are proven males. I don't think any of them. I think the only proven male that got paired, well, Orion is proven, that went to Rob's female, but I really don't think that I had her primed. What are you trying to see what's up? Hey, it's all about answering the questions. That's the whole idea. So as far as the animals, we were talking about the constipation, I got sidetracked reading other questions. So I've only had one short-tail prolapse ever. Typically, the best way to control that kind of stuff is environmentally, having the animals at the right temperature to digest food properly, giving them a little bit, even within the ambient, a little bit of a microhabitat. Making sure they stay hydrated is important to that kind of stuff. A varied diet doesn't hurt, so that they're properly getting the nutrients they need to go through these processes. I like to handle the animals semi-regularly. You know, even if it's once a month, every animal getting taken out for a handling session. That helps move it through their body. I like to get them outside during the summer, get them moving around a little bit. That helps move it through their body. If you feel like it's going too long, and usually you'll feel, if you feel right down by the end of their tail, there's a big urate there and it's sitting sideways or sitting in a position where you think they're going to have trouble, then maybe that's an issue. If it's softer back there or it's smaller size urates, then generally I don't even think about it. But you can swim them if you're worried about it, which is putting them in enough water where they kind of have to swim around. It moves their muscles, and a lot of times you'll see it actually encourage them, and you'll watch them start trying to push some of it out of their body. You know, so it's I only had one that really ever gave me any trouble. Even the one that prolapsed never gave me any trouble. She just prolapsed, and now twice. So I don't know what's going on with her. You know, she's back to good again. Let her sit for a while. We're going to give her a small meal again and see what happens. But the one that used to have trouble, for whatever reason, every like 6 months I would swim her and I'd spend some time just lightly massaging. And you have to be careful massaging because obviously you can do more harm than good if you're too invasive or too rough. It's just kind of subtle stuff, just kind of encouraging them. And you'll see with some of them, with her especially, once I started massaging a little bit, you would see her start to join the process and start trying to shift that stuff out, and then it would come out usually in my tub, which was horrible. You get these huge urates and big thing of poop. You know, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Had an idea of why they hold so long from the post Keith posted. I don't know if I read that one or not. I may have. Keith posts a lot of good stuff. And I feel like I have read that one. But I think a lot of it naturally is just the longer they hold stuff, they don't have to move out of their hiding spot. Once they go to the bathroom, typically they're going to have to move. I don't think they pass as much liquid naturally as they do in captivity, and that's just my hunch.
just because in the wild they're not necessarily drinking as often as they are here. Here, like every time you change their water, they go over and drink. At least mine do. Mine love fresh water. Almost all of them will go over immediately when you change the water. It's like they sense it. You'll see them, they'll be like sleeping in the corner of the cage. You put the fresh water in, all of a sudden you'll see the tongue flicks go and they go right over to it. So, you know, I don't know. I think they're drinking more, so they pass more. Is there good info on short tails in the wild? There's really not a lot. It is few and far between. There's a little bit in some of the Barker's books. There's a little bit here and there, but I don't think they've been studied to the level some of these other animals have been. Especially isolated populations and localities. I mean, I don't think we know jack on like Sarawak, Borneo. So there's really nothing out there. You know, and like Banka Island bloods, I don't know if there's a ton on those. And it'd be interesting. You know, I wish I was rich and I could just go over and study those animals and do that stuff. I'd love to get in the water bowl and overflow it. Oh, yeah. They'll definitely... I actually find not a lot of mine soak on their own. The McLots is soaking right now, which rarely happens. But also, at the moment, obviously, I'm treating for mites, so that's always a possibility with that one. Although there were no mites on her that I remember, and she has been treated, so it should be fine. She could also be going into a shed cycle, or it could be just from her last meal. Sometimes they like taking the pressure off of that load, and they sit in the water, and obviously, you know, water, everything's a little bit easier to maintain. But for short tails, really the only time I see them in their water is the hatchling stuff. When the hatchlings like explode in their tub and make it disgusting, they'll either flip their water dish over and sit on top of it, or they'll sit in it basically to get off of the nastiness of what they just did. But my adult male olive python will go for a swim occasionally in his water. You'll see him cruise in there. He sticks his head underneath of it, and he'll blow some bubbles underneath there and cruise around in and out of it. My male white lip, from time to time, will go into his water. Not very often. I've never seen the boa go into hers. The spotted python doesn't really go into hers. Maybe once I saw her in there. The big female white lip she has a water trough. Never seen her in it, not once. I'll see her go in there and drink, but never seen her soak. I also keep my temps pretty cool. Jason the Bulge. What am I missing here? Shooting my shot to... Oh man, you people are out of control. I have them down the rat barn, rat freezer, snake room, incubator, etc. Interesting. Should have had one in my damn freezer downstairs when I unplugged it to thaw it and then forgot and lost like $3,000 worth of feeders because I'm an idiot. That one hurt bad. Lost a whole huge stand-up freezer full of stuff. Because my freezer door doesn't seal right, so it frosts over all the time. I unplugged it to defrost it and totally forgot I unplugged it and went back, and everything was completely thawed, like completely thawed. So I didn't really feel comfortable with it. So it's plugged back in and that's running, but all I have for feeders right now is what's up in my household freezer. And then I'm supposed to go pick some up shortly. I've just been busy dealing with this shit, so I haven't had time. It didn't smell bad because like they were completely thawed, but they weren't like starting to decompose per se. I mean, obviously the moment they thaw, they're decomposing, but it didn't really smell anything outside of thawed rodent and a lot of thawed rodent. Truth be told, the stuff is probably safe, but you know, it's like $3,000 worth of stuff, but on an individual level, is a $3 meal to a snake worth losing a snake? No. So, you know, I don't want to take a chance with it. So that stuff's just gonna get tossed, I guess. Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate I remembered when I did. How do I thaw my food? All right, see you, Brian. So I pull it out of the freezer usually a day or two before I plan to feed, put it in the refrigerator, let it start to thaw in there. Usually I'll leave it in there for like 24 or 36 hours. And then I'll put it in some cold water, let it start to thaw, and then change the water every so often, start doing like a little bit of like almost like a room temperature water, and then right before I'm going to feed, once it's thawed, I'll put it in some like hotter water just to get the temperature up of the feeder, and then feed from there. In this room, pretty much everything is just ambient. The ARS rack on the bottom, like 3 rows, has some belly heat on it. And that really was just something I set up when I had a couple gravid females in there one year, and I just left it because the snakes are used to it now. So I was like, well, I'm not going to take it away from them, so I just left it on. But normally that would just be ambient too. The other room, the berm, the white lit, everything in that other room has some form of hotspot, be it via heat tape or radiant heat panel. The snakes in the living room, same way. The 41 quart rack that's in there has belly heat, and then the 4-foot cages all have radiant heat panels. If I have gravid females in here, I give them hot spots, just a few degrees above what the room is at, just to give them something to bask on. And that's about it. Sometimes when I have new hatchlings or whatever, I might put the back heat on in those racks. It's not on right now. Especially because the heat comes that direction, so those tend to stay pretty warm anyways, even a little bit above what the room is at, not by much, but maybe a degree or two. So I don't really worry about that much. And the racks, I have only one of the racks operational in the other room. I shut down the other 2, and consolidated those snakes to other places. I don't need to use that 41 or that 32 right now. So I'm going to actually pull the snakes that are in the 28. You see I have a couple of empty rows up on top of here right now. I have one empty row down the bottom, which, I try to avoid using the bottom. I will put a bin back in there at some point, or the bin's back in there when I clean to put the snakes down in. But for right now, every bin over there has a snake in it, and the other bins are outside. I got to scrub them out and treat them when this other preventamite comes in, and then I'll bring them back in. But I pulled out all the top panels, I treated those, and I treated the tubs, and I wiped down the whole rack. So anywhere the little fuckers try to trek on that, they're gonna die. But yeah, so those snakes that are in the 28, once I feel a little bit more settled with the mite thing, those are gonna come into this rack in here, so I can shut that 28 down. I want to scrub that out, let it sit for a little bit, scrub it out again, get it nice and clean. And then I'm going to start bumping up some of these snakes into that rack. I have like 2 of the Sumatrans, 1 of the Borneos in there is ready to bump up. I have another Borneo up top there that's ready to bump up. And then I can move the marbles that I want to move into this rack and get ready for the Sumatrans that'll be coming eventually. Once they get a little bit bigger, it's just constantly shuffling. I've got to get my hands on some more Christmas tree bins. I have 1 outside I'm going to clean up to go into the empty slot I have over here. I'm probably going to move Hera at some point, put another Christmas tree bin up there once I get one. I'll either move her on top of this stack or on top of this stack or whatever, and we'll figure it out. What'd you say now? Y'all go like the video? Yeah. What did you think of the Expos video Nerd put out? So is that the one with like the Florida YouTube shit where like they were clearly using snakes they caught earlier in videos to act like they were at places? If that's the one you're talking about, I thought that was some of the best work that Donnie's done to date. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the hijinks and the clickbait and all that kind of stuff with YouTube, as you guys well know. Yeah, Walmart here doesn't, and Walmart didn't even carry Christmas tree bins this season. They carried a Sterilite version, not the Iris ones that were different. They stopped carrying the Iris ones for whatever reason. But so yeah, if that's the video you're talking about, I thought he did a very good job with that. And I'm not surprised at all that kind of behavior is going on. We've been saying for years that a lot of stuff is sensationalized and blown out of proportion down there. Obviously, invasive species are a problem. They are a legitimate problem. They do exist there. But the Burmese pythons are not even top 10 of the animals of concern that are invasive down there. I don't even think they're top 25. But because of the fear and because of stuff like that people are playing on, it's gotten a lot more attention. And so while cats are much more destructive to the natural habitat, cats are cute to people. And so when you try to demonize that animal, people don't see that. When you try to demonize these animals, it's very easy, unfortunately. So that has gotten blown out of proportion. I mean, there's fish down there that are more of a concern. There are lizards down there that are more of a concern. There are mammals. But really the biggest problem down there right now that's really pushing these species to the brink of, threatened, extinction, endangered, all that stuff, is the amount of water they've diverted out of there for farming. They've basically shrunk down the Everglades habitat to about half of its original size. That's not the animals doing. The Burmese pythons aren't clear-cutting forests. They're not diverting water or any of that. So they want to make it like the berms are the reason why these animals aren't thriving like they used to be. But when you take, species and population that's designed for a certain amount of area and you cut the area available to them in half, now there's a lot more competition. They're going to be stuck moving to places outside of their niche. They're not going to survive well there. Then you sprinkle in the invasive problem on top of it, and you just have a total shitstorm. So I'm very happy that Nerd did that. I don't know if those people responded at all. I'm not going to drink all the water. It's quite possible. So I don't know if those people have responded to that. And I don't know what they could say, because their only choice is to lie. Because it's very clear to anybody that knows snakes, you can see those are the same animals. It's very noticeable. So I don't know what they tried to pull with that, but that's the reality of life nowadays. A lot of stuff is you watch reality television. It's not reality. It's staged and planned, and people are put into situations to try to get reactions. They're encouraged to overreact. They're encouraged to behave in a certain way, and so while it's horrible what those people are doing, there's no question about that. At the same time, what's worse is people are watching it. If nobody was watching it and nobody was paying any attention to it, they would stop doing it because it's not making them any money. So as long as people are watching it, giving it views, giving them money, encouraging that shit, then it's going to continue. So the only way to stop it, really, is to, make it not profitable. It's no different than people abusing animals, mistreating animals for profit. As long as you keep supporting that business, and they have no reason to change. When you take away how they put food on the table, then they either have to adapt and do what they need to do in order to get that business back, or they'll have to fold. And either way is a win when they're mistreating the animals like that. So that's something that people have to remember, that you vote with your dollars, your time, your energy. So don't give those things to those people. So hopefully that video gets out there, gets viewed by a lot of the right people. Honestly, I don't know how you can't get charged with cruelty at that point. I understand with invasive species that you have a right to hunt them, but capturing them, holding them, re-releasing them to kill them in what I would consider inhumane fashion, there's got to be something against that. It's one thing if they allow you to bow hunt that animal or whatever, but to capture it, re-release it, and to do that and then kill it on film, I don't know. There's got to be something there that they can go after those people for, or they need to go and put some kind of legislation in place if there isn't, that can do that, because it's nothing short of animal cruelty at that point. You're torturing that animal. It's thinking it's getting away, and you're just torturing it. So not only that, But you would think if nothing else, as fucked up as it may be, that they would be able to charge those people for releasing that animal. Because now they've captured it and they're intentionally letting it go again. So even though they intend on recapturing it, you have to think there's got to be a way to get them for that. And that's the only thing that I can think of, is that they could go after them from that regard. Because I think in one of those videos, one of the snakes got away. So now they've technically released that animal into the wild that was captured. So, and it's on video. You can see that they did it, especially knowing now that you've seen a video that they captured that animal, and now you see another day where that animal gets away. I would think that that's enough evidence right there. So I don't know what they're going to do about that, but hopefully something is done. I'm not abreast of the topic enough. I did watch that video, and like I said, I felt it was a very good job done on it to bring attention to it. The clickbait part of it kind of sucked, but that is what it is. All right. Y'all like the video. I agree. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you guys comment on the video even after we get off of here. That's all the stuff that helps these videos get traction. So every time, you know, I upload a video, if you hit like and you drop a comment, even if it's just hello, that helps. That's why I try to reply to every comment and try to get some conversations going, get more and more comments on there, because that's the only thing that the algorithm really recognizes. So that's what you got to do. You know, if you don't mind, I really appreciate it. And like I said, let me know at some point if you think that the super chat idea is good to give out some merchandise that way. The last video, it seemed to work really well. You guys got on board with that. This video, it did not work at all. So we will we'll have to see about that and figure that out. Sorry that I didn't have any normal upload yesterday. I've just been dealing with this so much that I just kind of got behind and didn't have anything filmed. I'll get something up for Wednesday. I still have to work on it. I haven't even thought about what I'll do for that yet, but we have, I think, 1 or 2 nice days this week before Wednesday that I should be able to get outside and do something. So we'll try to do that. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up now. I appreciate you guys popping in, being a part of the channel, and we will see you later on this week. Make sure you let me know at some point what you think about that stuff. We'll see you guys.